Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for today's episode of the Arsenal Ramble. Hope you're all doing well, battling through these cold, wintry December days. In fact, somebody who seems lucky to be alive after a brutal ordeal fighting away his man flu is my co-host, Dave.
I
Dave, how are
I
you
wasn't going
holding
to
up, mate?
mention it, to be fair. I didn't feel like I needed any more the sympathy votes. But yeah, it's been a tough week. To be fair, probably I don't think I've really moved out of bed uh, in about 4 days. Still got a little bit of the sniffles, so if you
No,
notice that in
this.
my voice, I do apologise. But yeah, the flu has hit me pretty bad, so definitely recommend that flu vaccine, people. I really do regret not getting that one, especially because I was offered it at work for free and I chose not to. So full of regrets. Anyway, how are you, mate?
Ah, absolutely gutted for you, mate. Yeah, I'm good actually. Thank you, mate. It's the first time that we're recording
Yeah.
separately, so it might be a bit of a learning curve, but we're gonna roll with it, and hopefully it works out fine. Um, so a bit of better news: there was actually an Arsenal game on
Yeah.
today.
Who knew? It sort of came out of nowhere, didn't it, really? I managed to,
Arsenal playing against Lyon
yeah.
today, and it was a 3-0 win. And you managed to catch the game, didn't you? So if you want to talk us through some of the main points of the
Yeah, I
game.
managed to catch most of the first half. Needed to walk the dog for the second. So, a lot of the second I didn't get a chance to see.
Oh, okay.
Not because I didn't want to watch it, just because I had sort of a foreign stream, and as in the commentary was foreign, and it's hard to keep up with the game. So it was a little bit difficult.
Yeah,
So
I think I did see as well. There was a lot of changes for that second half as
yeah,
well, which makes it a lot less appealing for the viewer, really, doesn't it? When you're not seeing all the I would say main first 11, but a lot of those are still at the World
yeah,
Cup. But
and there's a
yeah,
small window.
your senior players playing.
Sorry, yeah, there's a small
Yeah.
window of opportunity to walk the dog. Now it gets dark and pretty early, so I had to take my chance. But yeah, watched the first half and. Yeah, we were all over him. We really were all over him, to be fair. Fairly early goal from Big Gabby at the back. Lovely little corner from Odegaard, I think it was. Just a real clean header. Um, so that was nice to see. Second was from Eddie and Ketia. I was saying to you earlier, actually, I was really happy that he's managed to get on the score sheet with the recent injury to Jesus, which we'll obviously come on to a bit later. Um,
Mm.
but it's good to see that him in goal scoring form for the upcoming Premier League games. Um, and then finally we finished it off with a Vieira goal, which was actually a really well worked goal. Don't know if you've had a chance to see it yet, Dom, but just sort of passed it through, worked it well. It was, and then sort of cut back to Vieira on the edge of the box. I think he takes a touch and then just absolutely curls it top right corner. So it was a really good finish.
Oh, okay, so it is really good to see that even without our biggest players, we're still scoring. And the goal that Nketiah scored, because that's the one that I want to focus on
Yeah,
the most, because we've heard the news that we might be without Jesus for a good few months. I think it's 3 months
yeah,
or so after his. I think it's MCL surgery, but they've not really released all of the details on it quite yet.
no,
So the Nketiah goal, I saw that it was actually Lacazette that got dispossessed on the edge of our
yeah,
box, and then it was a turnover in possession, and was it Fabio Vieira that was played through, and he was in absolutely miles of
yeah.
space on the halfway line, and he could just bring it all the way to the box, pass it across the box to Nketiah, who just finished it quite
Well, just
calmly.
slotted it where the
Uh,
keeper was, didn't
it's
he?
Yeah, he didn't actually have to put too
No,
much power on the shot, or it was literally just all placement, which shows you that even though he's not really played for, not played for a while, just shows you his ability.
yeah. No, that's pretty much exactly how it went, really. like I said, dispossessed, sloppy, and on the edge of our box, which we've seen all too many times. But for us, so that was nice. Nice little reminder of what we don't have anymore. Um, and yeah, just a really well worked goal.
Was so for someone who didn't actually get to catch the game, was Lacazette any good?
I didn't
Like,
notice him.
to put it simply, did he actually impact the game at all?
I mean, I'm not
Or
sure if it was because of the dodgy stream, but I didn't really notice him, to be honest. You could have, if you'd have said to me he wasn't on the field, I probably wouldn't argue with you. Um, but having said that, it wasn't the most. It wasn't the game I was most attentive, as in I wasn't watching it as eagle-eyed as I normally would. Put it that way.
no, no. I mean, it's always that way with these non. Well, they are competitive to a certain extent because you win some kind of dodgy cup at the end of it, which
Yeah.
doesn't really hold any merit. But they're basically glorified friendlies, aren't they? Whilst the World Cup's on for all the players that didn't make it. But yeah, there's not going to be too much edge to those games. But it was quite interesting to see that even though we had won the game and won it convincingly, they had a penalty shootout at the end.
Yeah, yeah. Just to touch on the friendly aspect, yeah, it's all about fitness, isn't it? At the minute, we've got to get the ball rolling again for the team. And to be honest, the majority of players that will be, playing once the Premier League resumes are actually back. There's only a handful that are still at the World Cup. So I think even Partey was in attendance today, he just wasn't playing. So probably we'll see him in the later friendly games. Um, Sorry, what was your
Hmm.
question? I've completely sidetracked.
It was just noting the fact that they had a penalty
Oh
shootout,
yeah,
even though the game wasn't tied.
yeah,
It's quite nice to see that the young players get a chance to have a penalty shootout in a pressure environment where it's in an actual game state rather than in training.
yeah. It was almost like a kids football game. You ever watch like an under-11s game? They always finish on a penalty shootout. But no, it's good experience for them. It is
Yeah.
good experience at the end of the day. It's hard to replicate that pressure, but a televised game at the end of the day, it's as pressurized as it's going to get in a friendly. So yeah, it's nice that the
Yeah, and it's almost like they can be desensitized to a certain
it
extent
doesn't
of
matter.
taking a penalty
Yeah,
shootout. So
yeah.
yeah,
Whatever happened,
so that's
it
always
wouldn't have
nice to
mattered.
see.
I think we got an extra point or something like that, didn't we? In for the friendly, but in the grand scheme of things, what does that matter? But yeah, I think it's a good idea, really, to get some experience for them taking penalties. Although we didn't do that well, I think we scored 2 out of 5, but luckily they scored 1 out of 5. Um,
So they were just about as good as the
yeah,
Japanese the other day in the World Cup.
pretty much. Yeah,
Jesus. They were awful. And so talking about the chap that you said that was in attendance, Thomas Partey, a fair few of our Arsenal boys have now actually been, well, they've come out of the World Cup, haven't they? And they've returned, and some of them have come back with the squad that's in Dubai. How important is it really that we're getting these guys back instead of them going all the way through the tournament and they're joining up with the team and they're getting back into full steam ahead mode, ready for the season starting on the 26th of December?
yeah. It is really key actually for some players more specifically than others, but I'm thinking along the lines of Granit Xhaka, Thomas Partey is obviously massive. Tomiyasu, I think he's had a bit of a niggly injury all tournament, really. So kind of glad that we're getting him back with the Arsenal setup.
Especially with the
That's
sorry
a,
to interrupt with you
right.
there. Tomiyasu coming back to full fitness because we don't know what the situation is with Ben
Yeah,
White
and
currently.
Zinchenko, he hasn't played today, and he's not. So that worries me slightly because that suggests that he's maybe still injured. So you know,
Mm. So that just shows you our squad depth at the minute, though, because if we do lose Zinchenko and we do lose Ben White, then we've also got Tomiyasu to step in at right back and then Tierney at
Mm.
left back. So it's it's better than having Cedric coming in,
Yeah.
for
Cedric
example.
and Tavares of last year. Yeah, we're still in a healthy position in terms of I wouldn't call them backups, but the rotational player, if you will. Um, if we've got Tierney and Tomiyasu, that's still pretty strong. So, um, yeah, but
Yeah.
I like
So one of our players who unfortunately hasn't joined up with the team in Dubai is our main man, Gabriel Jesus. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, that it's a potential MCL tear that he's had surgery on for a 3 month rehabilitation time.
yeah.
We're gonna miss this guy, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. It almost felt inevitable, didn't it, really, that it was going to happen at some point, either him or Partey or someone of that ilk. And yeah, it seems like it's been an injury that's been niggling him for some time. Um, it's just this particular game is what's caused the severity and needed surgery. But I have heard like rumors that it was more of an MCL, like not a full tear, if that makes sense. I mean, I'm no doctor, but I think it was more the meniscus that they were worried about, and I think, I mean, I can't quite remember where I saw this quote, but the surgery might not have been as invasive as first feared. So I'd really like to see some sort of timeline put on it from Arsenal. I know it's always tricky when they first come out from surgery, but it'd be nice to know.
Yeah, because well, the the timeline on someone's rehab is only as good as their physio, really,
Yeah,
isn't it? And it's only as good as their body can take to it. But I think Granit Xhaka had the same injury last year, but he had like a full fracture or a full. Like,
yeah,
it was the same injury but worse, and he was down for a 3 month injury time, and he came back in just over half of that,
yeah,
didn't he? He wasn't out for the full 3 months. So I guess it may not be as bad as we actually think at this time. But to be honest with Jesus, he's had a bit of an underwhelming World Cup.
yeah.
So it might be, and it's been full on for him when he's been playing for Arsenal. So it might be good for him to just have a bit of rest and recovery and then come back hungry, wanting to just be fully focused on the Arsenal and scoring goals again and
Yeah,
helping the team.
exactly. We try and look at it as a silver lining, at least there's a month of that 3 months where he wouldn't have been playing anyway because of the World Cup. Well, maybe not quite a full month, but at least some time. Um, but yeah, he's going to be a huge miss, unfortunately. But I'm really hoping that Eddie Nketiah can now take his chance like he did last season.
Yeah, and going back to Arsenal actually not putting any timeline on Jesus coming back, is there a side of that which could be Arsenal keeping their cards close to their chest because the transfer market opens in January, and if other clubs know that Arsenal are looking or they're in the market to buy a striker because one of their main striker is out injured, that kind of it puts the price up.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. But I mean, I don't think this injury is going to affect our transfer plans, to be honest. I don't think we would ever have three three key strikers. Teams just don't play like that. So we would be looking to add in January, I think, and it would always be that wide forward that maybe as a versatile option could
Mm.
play up top. So I don't think that's changed in that respect, and I don't think that will particularly change how much clubs will be demanding
Yeah,
either.
yeah, we did actually have. Sorry, we did actually have a question on that, and that's from Joe Fry, who's at Joe Fry81 on Twitter. And he said, with the news going round about Gabriel Jesus potentially being out for 3 months, do we rely on Eddie or do we look to bring in a new forward? So I think what he's saying with that is, with Eddie coming on, getting his new £100,000 a week contract last season, and Arteta clearly having faith in him, do you think? Well, do is Eddie the man to step up now?
Yeah. He's got to be. We rewarded him with a 100K contract, didn't we? In the summer, and that's surely got to put, and the number 14. That's surely got to put faith into him that he's got to be there, ready to take his chance when that came. I mean, it's been hard because he hasn't really been the most influential off the bench this season, has he? And I was
No.
hoping for more when he had been giving these, but like he's one of his famous lines last year was, give me a string of games and I'll show you what I can do. We did that, and he did show us what he could do, and he was banging in the goals and at a pretty high rate in comparison to other Premier League strikers. So, I think it could be a little blessing in disguise, really, for Eddie. And I really do hope he takes his chance because he deserves it. And he needs to sort of show that 100K price tag.
Yeah.
But, he's per week.
Yeah, and what else does it say about us as a club if we give someone a contract like that and then we don't choose to play him when our main striker gets
Exactly.
injured? It's like he's a backup for a reason, and you don't you don't go through the season with a backup for your main striker to get injured
I
and
know.
then you decide, okay, we're just going to go buy
Yeah.
a new striker in the transfer window. Because also saying that if someone is like Jesus level that we would buy in the transfer window, then when Jesus comes back into the team, they're automatically unhappy with their position in the team.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. The squad harmony wouldn't be there. It could be argued as a waste of money, a setback financially for the forthcoming transfer window. It wouldn't be wise to do that. It wouldn't.
No, would you? So I've also seen being battered around on Twitter, maybe a potential loan deal for a player just to plug that gap to maybe take the pressure off Nketiah, say if he's not playing too well, because you never know with Jesus, there could be setbacks. He could be out for longer than 3 months. And a lot of people have been singing the praises of Memphis Depay and the way he's been playing for the Netherlands this season. This World Cup, sorry. Would you be happy to have him on as a loan deal?
I mean, yeah, you say alone. It's just it depends on who it is, doesn't it? Really. I mean, we've had terrible loans in the past, like Denis Suarez and players like that, and then we've had really good ones like Odegaard that did actually materialize into something. So it would have to be the right fit. I don't really think Memphis Depay would be the right fit
Mm.
personally. What do you think?
No, actually, I think looking at it, I think he might be a free agent. I don't know if that's in the summer or if it's in January, but his contract looks like it's running out. So he does look like a really good player, and he looks like the sort of player that would fit into our system. Had we not have someone like Jesus in there, but I feel like it just isn't enough room in the team to have him and Jesus and
Yeah.
Nketiah as well. I just think it would stunt Nketiah's development, and it would, as you say, it would ruin the harmony of the squad and
Yeah,
the
I think
team.
I'm of the mindset that we're going to be signing a wide forward, you see. So I've already got that sort of person there slotting in, whoever they will be, whether it's Mudryk or someone like that. I don't know, but I think that's sort of clouding my judgment of that. Say it came to deadline day in January and we hadn't signed a wide forward or we hadn't signed anybody, then I'd be more open to the option because we're going to need somebody to help us get through to May. So, then I'd be more open to it. But yeah, that wouldn't be my ideal option, put it that way.
Yeah, and to be honest, the way that Arteta sets the team up, he likes all of the forwards to be quite free flowing and swapping positions anyway. So for us to get a wide forward like someone, maybe Mudryk, it actually wouldn't be too much of a miss to not have Jesus in the team. If say because you have Martinelli, he goes from left to
Yeah.
central. Saka, he always comes central. and then you could have a player like Mudryk, and let's not forget we're getting Smith Rowe back. He could maybe even fill in on the left, whilst Martinelli could slot in up
Yeah.
top. I don't. I don't really like the idea of Martinelli as a centre forward per se, just because I feel like we've tried it a couple of times and it's not really worked out too well, albeit in a different team and a different system. But and also, whilst Martinelli, he's having an absolutely storming season on the left, you don't really want to disrupt that. But when Smith Rowe comes back, you feel like we do need to we do need to shoe him back into the team,
Yeah.
shoehorn him back into the team if we can.
Yeah, I mean, there's options there, isn't there? None of them are ideal, but they're they're not bad options either at the same time. So it's nice to be able to have that. I do think the Martinelli one's interesting because I have noticed, especially towards the end of the before the World Cup break, he was playing a lot more centrally, even though he was, technically left wing. He was getting into a lot of central positions, so maybe that was a hint that he's thinking a bit more about other areas of the pitch, and maybe Smith Rowe could come back in on the left hand side, and Martinelli could play that sort of false nine sort of striker position.
Mm. Yeah, and Mudryk, he looks like more of a left winger than a right winger, which I initially thought he was a right winger. Do you think there's space in this team to have three left
Yeah,
wingers?
it's funny you should say that because I thought he was a right winger as well. It was only until I watched a breakdown video on YouTube not long ago that I saw that he was a left-sided player. Um, and that was kind of one of the main reasons I was so up for Mudryk as opposed to someone like Gakpo because he was predominantly right-hand side. So it is a strange one because we're not really being linked with many right-hand sided players, are we? Despite only having Saka really as our main wide option.
No.
So it's a strange one, but
Well, yeah, I think with what I was saying before, with the flexibility of players that are like left-footed, right-footed, Mudryk looks like he can score
yeah,
with either foot, and he's just a gifted player in general. That's just like an Arteta player. It's sort of the way like Man City have played for years. They'll have players that can play either left wing, right wing, centre attacking mid, striker as a false nine. Barcelona did that for years, and if you have really technically gifted players, then it will
yeah,
work. I feel like, but if you try and shoehorn players in that don't fit in that category, then it won't
yeah,
work. So I feel like as long as he buys, or if he does bring in a Mudryk, someone to that level, as long as they're a technically gifted player, then it's going to work either way.
yeah,
Hopefully.
yeah. You're probably spot on. Really, the talent profile IDing is so much more about the player than the actual position. So maybe that's something they've highlighted in their targets, and they just so happen to all play on the left, or predominantly the left anyway. But they're versatile enough to be able to be molded into other areas of the pitch.
Yeah. Did you see that Mudryk followed a luxury car sales? Oh no, luxury car rental page in
Yeah,
Dubai over the last few days. It's like, is
really linking
he
up.
meeting up with the team,
Yeah.
or is that just all clickbait?
Well, it's him that's followed this uh, rental company on Twitter or wherever it is. So it's a coincidence, but one that makes me sort of raise an eyebrow. But having said that, he's almost trying every trick in the book, isn't he, to force a move at the minute. He's calling out their own director about the price tag that was being demanded to try and get that lowered. It seems. Um, I think he put a poll on his Instagram. Have you seen this? Saying, "What am I
Yeah,
worth?"
I saw the poll. Basic, yeah, I saw that because so initially the club came out and said that they wouldn't sell him for less than
Yeah.
like what 100
Yeah.
million euros, and he put a post saying that he was disappointed that he felt like he was being held back from a big move, that he wants to get a big move, and they're basically trying to fleece him for as much money as they can, which is fair enough because it's not often a team like Shakhtar would have an asset like him that loads of teams want. But yeah, so initially he put that post, and then to highlight his point, he put that poll basically saying like, "What am I worth?" And I think he got the price off transfer marked or something, and it basically saying that he's worth like 40 million euros or
That
50
was it.
million
Yeah.
euros.
So he's trying every trick under the book
just
to
to say,
prove to Shakhtar
yeah.
to sell me for this price. So there's clearly stuff going on behind the scenes. Clearly, he's even into having interviews with Zinchenko's wife, and and trying to get her to almost publicise this Arsenal move. So I don't quite know what I think about it all because had a player at Arsenal been doing this to try and get a move to say Man City, for example, what would we be saying about that Arsenal player? We wouldn't be saying they're very, it's not, it's hard to say, but it's not the best characteristic in a football player, is it? To be forcing a move so publicly.
No,
So,
no. I guess it's like if things don't start to work out for him, then is he going to just do everything within his power to then try and move away from the Emirates? So it's like, or is it because he just wants his big move and then he'll be happy where he
yeah,
is, and if he's performing and he wants to play, because he said his goal was to play in the Premier League. So I guess if he gets that at Arsenal, then he's not going to be too unhappy with that.
no,
It sort of reminds me of do you remember on deadline day when Peter Odemwingie turned up to was it he was playing
yeah,
for
on it. Oh,
West Brom at the time, and then or it was one of the two. I think he was playing for West Brom, but he
that
turned
was
up at
it.
QPR
Yeah,
Stadium to basically say, "Can you sign me?" And they were like,
yeah,
"No." He had to go back with his tail between his legs back to his old club.
exactly.
But yeah, it does kind of have those vibes about it. But I think it's gonna go on, and I don't think it will be done early in the transfer window if it does
No,
happen.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's got plenty of time before January the window's even open. But it is a curious one and yeah, a strange one. I don't quite know what to think about it, but yeah, like I said earlier, if an Arsenal player was doing this, I don't think I'd be particularly happy with that.
No, no, not at all. So talking about a few of our boys that were eliminated from the World Cup as well. Matt Turner actually had in every game that he played, he had a pretty
Yeah,
decent game. It's quite satisfying to see that our backup keeper is a pretty good shot stopper, and he when called upon, he will do a fairly decent
yeah,
job.
he's probably been standout. Maybe Saka, or him and Saka are probably the two standout Arsenal players at the World Cup so far, anyway. But yeah, that performance he put in the other day was really, really strong. Pulled some great saves out. Even that double save. I don't know if you remember that one, but that was particularly impressive. So yeah, it's looking like a good bit of recruitment actually. And to consider that we've had to persuade him to be a number two as well. Must have been pretty difficult considering he's a number one for the US, and when you're number two, that's for your club. It's difficult to maintain that. But he's done that, and yeah, it's proven to be really good signing, and it's reassuring to know that we've got that on the bench should anything happen to Ramsdale.
So for example, would you keep him on in the cup competitions that we're already in? So, say, I know we got eliminated out of the League Cup, but FA Cup, Europa League, even though we're in the knockout stage of the Europa League, would you let him see that all the way through, knowing that he's now a pretty competent keeper?
Um, I think I'm always in a position like always have a mindset of you play your best players, um, depending on the sort of the opponent really. Like if we're like all the or how far we are into the cup, say it's the semi final or final, you play your best players. You play your number one keeper, whoever that is at the time. That's who plays. So for me, I wouldn't be playing him saying this is your cup, for example. I know we've done that in the past with certain keepers, um, but no, I don't like that.
Quite a lot of whom are playing at the World
You what?
Cup.
Sorry.
I say in quite a lot of our ex-keepers of whom have been playing at this World Cup. I think just about every team's got an ex-Arsenal keeper.
Oh yeah, Chesney. He's playing really well. Yeah, it's, there is a quite a fair few. Yeah,
Martinez.
quite a few ex-Arsenal players. Even the Japanese forward got one, didn't he? Sono, if you remember him. Sano,
Asano.
yeah. Um, but yeah, no, it's going back to Turner. It's certainly a good position to be in to have that strength because we have had pretty good second choice keepers for the last couple of years now with Leno and then Leno and Martinez before that. So it's nice to know we've still got that strength there.
Yeah. It's really good to see. Um, and just like circling back to the World Cup a little bit, it was amazing to see that Morocco knocked out Spain. They defended like warriors to get all the way to penalties and knock them out. And one of the players there that has played really well for Morocco, we were actually linked with last summer, was that En Niziri. He he looks like he would be a really good signing for like a mid-table Premier League
Yeah.
club, but I don't really see enough from him for us to have warranted spending all that money in the summer to get him. So
Uh,
maybe a smart bit of business for us.
yeah, no, he looks like a competent player, no doubt. Not sure whether he would elevate us as a team really. But no, it was a really good performance by Morocco. To be fair, they did park the bus, didn't they, for the majority of that game and hit on the counter. But um, if that's a tactic that you're gonna play with, then they executed it perfectly, didn't they? So you can't argue with it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And well, I was going to ask you, like, who in your eyes from the World Cup so far? Because I know we asked this list last
Yeah,
time, but we're a bit further on now
yeah.
in the World Cup. So, who from the World Cup so far would you have slot into this Arsenal team? I think last time we both said Jude Bellingham. Is that the same now?
The first person that sprung to mind when you just said that was Jude. Um, I guess he has been one of the standout performers, hasn't he? And you've got others like Pedri and Gavi that have done really well. Um, I guess I guess it probably would still be Jude Bellingham. It's unrealistic now. I
Yeah.
think, especially with this World Cup, I don't think we'd ever be in the running for him anymore, which is a shame. But yeah, I'd still say it'd be Jude. What about you?
I was, yeah, I'm completely sold on Jude. And unfortunately, I do think that this tournament has put an extra
Yeah,
30 million on top of his
it
price
has,
tag
hasn't it?
just from the way that he carries the ball. It sort of reminds me of like a Yaya Toure when he was at City, where like he'll just pick it up just inside their own half and just glide past players and then release it just at the
Yeah,
right time every time.
yeah, you're spot on. There's very few players in his position, especially at 19 years old, that are playing at that level that young. It's just it's it's a clear, when you got your Haalands and your Mbappes, you could see that they were going to be world class. He's the next one, isn't he? In that pipeline, you can just tell if he's not already there at the minute. Because a lot of people say, "Oh, he's the future of England."
Yeah.
Well, he's already the present, to be honest. And he's 19 years old, so it's crazy to think what he can
Yeah.
achieve. And yeah, sadly, I don't think we're really going to be in the running for him anymore.
He would be for me. I do think if we did manage to go deep into our pockets and manage to get Jude Bellingham, then I think he would, as a replacement for Xhaka when he finally departs because he's getting over 30 now. As a replacement for Xhaka, he would feel like the final piece in the puzzle for a team which could last like 5 or 6 years and be right at the top of the league, going into the Champions League, challenging for that, and to dominate English and European football.
Yeah. A player of that ilk is certainly someone I think we should be aiming for in the summer. Well, like I say, I don't think it'll be him, sadly, because it doesn't even come down to money at this stage now. It comes down to, can you attract him to your club, and then when you got other clubs like City, Liverpool, Madrid that will be proposing to him, we've got very little chance.
Yeah, but that being said, if we do manage to somehow win the title, then there is something to be said about an attraction to going to the current Premier League champions. It's one of the most prestigious competitions to win. So if we do somehow manage to win, it just shows the importance of having a great season. Because when we were in eighth, it was sort of like we don't even have the pull to get these big players anymore. So we had to buy players that we could mold into. That we had to buy like future players, if you know what I mean. Whereas when you're already at the top, it's a lot easier to buy these ready-made players to just come straight in. Obviously, I know not Jude Bellingham being a ready-made player, but when you don't have Champions League football, it's so hard to actually attract these players. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you're spot on. We have had to sort of find these hidden gems, like with Gabriel um, from Lille in the French leagues. Gabby, the Martinelli, another gem that we've sort of polished into the player he is now. Odegaard wasn't particularly firing at Real Madrid. His loan spell with us, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't glowing by any means, which meant we could get him for a reasonable fee. So yeah, we have had to recruit well, but we're now at a stage, aren't we, where adding someone ready to fire straight away would then take us to that next level. Um, Hopefully make us title contenders and contenders in the other cups.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And just I'm just at a place now where obviously I'm an England fan and I really enjoy watching the World Cup, but I really am missing watching Arsenal and having that little glimmer of Arsenal ness today, seeing the boys playing and scoring. It just gets me excited for the Premier League to come back. But yeah, so I think we've probably hit the nail on the head for everything that's happened
Yeah.
today.
What about England's chances though? Before we wrap up for Saturday against France, what are you saying about that?
Ooh, if if I was a betting man, I would be betting on France, but I'm going to go with my heart, and I'm going to say 2-0 England, and obviously Saka with one.
That would be nice. It'd be nice to see Saliba get a chance again. Although, they didn't exactly play too well as a whole, as a collective, when he did play, did they, in that final game? They sort of capitulated a little bit, so don't think
Mm.
they're going to be rotating so heavily again.
Well, actually, as an Arsenal fan, knowing Saliba's quality, I really hope that he gets left out
Mm.
on the
Yeah,
bench, unable to get injured, and so he doesn't play against our play because I know how
yeah.
good
To
he
be
is.
fair,
So I don't want him to come
yeah,
against
you're
us.
spot on. I'd much rather play Canate than Saliba. So
Yeah.
bring Canate on.
Did you see Kyle Walker's comments about Mbappe, basically saying like we don't need to fear him, like we should be like looking at the whole team instead of just Mbappe. And I get where he's coming from, but you know he is one of those high like super players like a Haaland and
Yeah.
Mbappe, Messi, Ronaldo of the last few generations. Like I do think there's a certain point where you kind of need to man mark him or at least double up on him.
Yeah, he's certainly their talisman player, but they are obviously still very talented in other areas of the pitch. I guess that's probably what he was trying to say, but the media do seem to whip up some sort of 1v1 feud between those two just because they're both fast. It's quite odd. I
Yeah,
guess they're going to be on the same wing, so
yeah,
it makes sense. But yeah, there does seem to be some sort of battle being
yeah.
framed for those two. Well,
I
we'll, we'll see.
Yeah, well, I do think one area where we actually will be able to expose and hurt France is down the right. When Mbappe pushes up against Card Walker, if we're able to then break quickly and get it through to Saka, Mbappe will have overcommitted down the left hand side for them, our right hand side, and Saka will then be 1-on-1. So that's somewhere where we exploit for Arsenal, where we pull their winger up against Ben White. Ben White will win it back, pass it to Partey, who will then get it through to Saka, and then we're breaking. So I do feel like that's potentially a weakness of theirs if he
Yeah,
overcommits.
yeah, that's a really good point actually. Yeah, because with when Trippier was playing on the right, at right back with Saka further up, they were often too close to each other, and it really affected Saka negatively. Whereas with Walker,
Yeah.
yeah, like you say, I feel like he's more aware of that, and yeah, that could be interesting and give Saka some more one-on-one situations, which, as we all know, he thrives on, and that could be the difference.
Yeah, I feel it's almost inevitable that they're going to bring on Giroud and then he's going to score a hat trick, and
Gosh,
we're all going to be crying. And that'll be another thing to his highlight reel. However, that being said, I actually saw something on Twitter the other day about Giroud, and it wasn't actually about Giroud. It was Santi Cazorla's debut season, and it was like a all the highlights of his best passes, and I tell no word of a lie. He had about 9 or 10 unbelievable through balls through to
yeah,
Giroud, where he had one-on-ones with the keeper, and he absolutely fluffed it up over the bar, scuffed it near post, got his feet tangled up, tripped over,
yeah,
and it just shows you like if you were to show a kid like a highlight reel of Giroud, they'd be like, well, he looks like the best player in the world, but it's just a little reminder of the reasons why we actually did replace him in the
yeah.
end.
No, I remember. I think that was the 2014 season Leicester one as well. That the most of those um, clips would have been from, and that was the one season where if we'd have just scored a few more goals, we could have pipped Leicester. I'm surprised they're still so pally with each other, considering the amount of assists Giroud cost. Because I always see them photographed together.
I know, but the thing is, Cazorla is just
Yeah,
a
no,
happy guy, isn't
I
he? Like
jest.
he seems like his best mates with everyone,
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
he?
he won't be taking it personally now.
I'd love to see him back at the club. If he came back to the club to do coaching or something, I'd love to see that. Similar to what Mertesacker done.
Yeah, yeah, he's certainly one of my the fan favourites for the Emirates era, isn't he? He's one of those players where you couldn't help
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
sort of appreciate his talents.
Yeah. Right. I think that's all from us today. So we're going to wrap it up there. If you want to follow us, well, you're probably already following us, but if you want to, it's at Arsenal Ramble _on Twitter. And that's all from me and Dave today. Thank you very much and
You guys,
goodbye.
bye.